Most people are walking around right now completely trapped inside an invisible economic contract that they never actually signed up for. Seriously. They trade their absolute most precious, finite resource, their time, for a paycheck, just assuming that working harder automatically equals more success. But what if I told you that entire equation is a biological trap? Well, in this explainer, we are unpacking the Almanack of Naval Ravikant summary, which is basically the ultimate guide to escaping that exact trap. This isn't just your standard financial advice. It's a complete, ground-up operating system for wealth, leverage, and true happiness. So ask yourself, are you trapped? Because for almost all of human history, whether you were a farmer, a factory worker, or even a highly paid lawyer, everyone has operated under the exact same biological cap. You trade finite hours for money. We just naturally assume that climbing the corporate ladder harder and faster produces better outcomes. We act as if grinding away for 60 hours a week in a cubicle, doing something we kind of hate, will somehow magically buy us our freedom. But the harsh reality? You are climbing a system strictly capped by your own biology. And that brings us to a really hard truth. You only have 24 hours in a day. No matter how disciplined you become, there is a hard limit to how much labor you can personally perform. No matter who you are, you run out of hours. But as Eric Jorgenson explains so well in the text, the digital age has completely shattered this old mathematics of wealth creation. All right, let's dive into Section 1, the invisible economic contract and the core idea. Here's the paradigm shift. Wealth is no longer about just working harder. Effort alone won't cut it anymore. Today, wealth is generated through leverage, ownership, and judgment. The inputs and outputs of our work have become radically decoupled. Think about it. For the very first time in human history, one single individual sitting in a corner coffee shop with a laptop can create a system, like a piece of software or digital media, that replicates infinitely at near zero cost. Your cognitive output can literally be multiplied 1,000,000 times over without you having to be physically present in the room. Moving right along to Section 2, decoupling time from income. Now, there is a massive, absolutely crucial distinction between playing wealth games and playing status games. Most of us confuse money, status, and wealth, which causes us to play the exact wrong game. Status is competitive. It's a zero-sum game. If you go up a rung on the social hierarchy, someone else literally has to get bumped down. It's a recipe for chronic anxiety. Wealth, on the other hand, that's a positive-sum game. When you create scalable assets, you're actually expanding the whole pie for everyone. Wealth is about ownership, not comparison. To win, you have to completely change your fundamental mindset. You've got to stop asking, how can I earn more? And start asking, what can I own that scales? If you do not own a piece of a business, a platform, or some sort of asset, you're still stuck playing labor economics. Making this psychological shift is the very first step in upgrading from an employee to a true creator of leverage. Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, the new leverage matrix. The absolute foundation of this entire matrix is what Naval calls specific knowledge. This is your unfair advantage. It's knowledge you literally can't go to school for. Because think about it, if society can train you to do it in a classroom, they can train someone else right behind you to replace you. Specific knowledge is actually found in your weird childhood obsessions, your natural curiosity, and your unique personality. When you're working on this thing, it feels like play to you, even if it looks like absolute grueling work to everybody else. And the best part? It strongly resists automation because it relies on your completely unique human intuition. Next up, you combine that specific knowledge with permissionless leverage. Back in the day, having leverage meant managing employees or needing rich investors. You needed someone's permission to scale. Today, code, media, YouTube videos, AI, these things operate continuously as an army of robots working for you while you sleep. You don't need anyone's permission to write a script or hit publish on an explainer online. The leverage has completely shifted from human capital and bank loans over to digital assets and pure, unadulterated focus. And when you smash those two concepts together, you get this profound idea: productize yourself. Yourself is your authenticity, your accountability, and that specific knowledge we just talked about. Productize is the scale, the permissionless distribution. In an era where audiences are just absolutely drowning in generic AI-generated content, your genuine authenticity is arguably the greatest tool you have for self-improvement and real economic value creation. Let's move to Section 4, finding your specific knowledge. So you're probably wondering, how do you actually figure this out for yourself? Well, to find your unique advantage, this book summary offers a brilliant, actionable audit routine. Step 1 is forensic childhood recall. Ask yourself, what did you do obsessively before society came along and told you what you should be doing? Step 2 is the play versus work check. What absorbs your attention completely effortlessly? And step 3 is taking that natural fascination and synthesizing it into scalable systems under your own real name, creating true accountability. Long-term leverage lives exactly at this magical intersection. When you align your daily work with your authentic identity, you experience incredibly low psychological resistance. You know that feeling when you don't need to rely on sheer brute force motivation just to keep going? That's what we're aiming for. Finding this alignment is an absolute cornerstone of true personal growth and sustainable mastery. All right, let's shift gears quite a bit for Section 5, the skill of happiness. This brings us to one of the most powerful key ideas and life lessons in the entire text. Success and wealth absolutely does not guarantee happiness. Listen to this quote. Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Wow. Every single time we desire something, we put our own inner peace on hold. Modern society constantly stimulates us with cheap dopamine, keeping our brains in this exhausting state of chronic psychological agitation and endless anticipation. Instead, Naval argues that happiness isn't about peak excitement, it's actually about peace. Happiness is a trainable habit of desire elimination. It happens in that quiet moment when nothing feels missing, but it requires deliberate emotional regulation, mindfulness, and completely disconnecting yourself from the constant need for external validation. You literally have to practice peace exactly like you would practice a physical skill at the gym. And finally, Section 6, Rules for Ultimate Freedom. Think of these 4 formulas as compressed strategic models for modern human flourishing. Wealth is your unique knowledge multiplied by leverage and judgment. Productizing yourself is that knowledge times permissionless scale. Your income relies on your accountability. And ultimately, the happiness formula is simply the addition of your health, your wealth, and good relationships. It's elegantly simple, but incredibly hard to execute. So to lock all of this in, let's rapid fire the main lessons and core wealth building laws you need to remember. Seek wealth, not money or status. Own equity. Develop your specific knowledge. Use permissionless leverage. Build exceptional judgment because in high leverage situations, guys, one single good decision is worth 1,000 hours of hard work. Play long-term games with long-term people because trust compounds. And finally, compound relentlessly. Patience will always beat short-term intensity. Now, to provide a balanced look at this material, it's important to note a valid critique here, the tension between systemic constraints and radical accountability. Naval's framework relies heavily on hyper-individualism, but we have to impartially acknowledge that geographic instability, economic inequality, and health limitations are very real systemic realities. Not everyone starts the game with the same access to leverage. Yet, even with these constraints in place, applying the principles of radical accountability and seeking whatever leverage is available to you can still radically improve your autonomy. Which brings us to our profound final thought. Wealth is not the final destination. It is the mechanism that creates enough space to discover what truly matters. Once you solve your external money problems, the deepest existential questions finally emerge. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. If you successfully apply all this leverage and you manage to buy back all your time, what will you choose to do with your ultimate freedom?